It's streaming. Hasn't started going out yet. Now I'm going to mute you, put you in the green room for a second. So just have a glass of water or something while you're in there. Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome to the New Year Toolbox Tech Talk. Happy New Year, everyone. It's great to be back. And this year, we're starting with something a bit different. If those of you have seen the promo, we're going to be talking about crypto mining today. And if you don't know what that is, you've come to the right channel. So I just want to let you know about a few things that are coming up. I've got some training courses. You know, normally I talk about solar and battery technologies and a lot of detail around that, but today's a bit different. But I still run courses in solar and battery standards. So for those of interested in knowing all about the main three standards that cover our solar and battery industry in Australia and New Zealand, that course is on the 12th to the 14th of January. It's all online, delivered via Zoom meetings. So you can enroll at my website, solarquip.com. Following that, I've got a solar and battery design and install course. Also, it's fully online. Normally, I run those as face-to-face courses, but you know, you can't go anywhere these days. There's always borders closing. So I do them virtually, and they're all recorded, and you can watch them afterwards the same day if you miss out on part of it or you can't attend one of the days. So that's a 5-day course, 5 half days in the morning. That's the 18th to the 22nd of January. Thanks, Thomas, for the Happy New Year, and g'day, Ray and Frank there. I see your comments coming through. So just like to emphasize that you're welcome to ask questions of myself and my guest, which I'll introduce in a minute as we go along. And those comments, I can bring them on screen for us to respond. So maybe check the spelling, check that you've actually asked the right thing, and also be aware that your social media pic will come on screen as well. So if you're happy with all that, then put some comments and questions into the feed. So we've got people coming in from YouTube and Facebook. LinkedIn is another platform we use here. So if there's anyone on LinkedIn, you're welcome to put some comments in there. So you can also watch these afterwards, after the live's finished. They're still available through YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and even Twitter through Periscope. So you can send them to friends to catch up. So what I'd like to do now is actually introduce my guest. My guest today has spent the better part of his career as an electrician who specialised in solar, air conditioning and electrical installations ranging from residential, commercial to utility scale sites for the better part of the last decade. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Carl Zilm of EnergyPlex to talk about solar crypto mining. G'day, Carl.
G'day, Glenn. How are we this fine afternoon?
Yeah, well, actually, it was been raining, and I was kind of just put in a new solar array here, and so I wanted to test it, and it's really annoying when it's raining and you're trying to test your solar system. But anyway, the sun's come out, and I'm happy now, and I'm back in the dark in the studio doing my Toolbox Tech Talk. How about you? What's it like over there in Adelaide?
Generating around 15 kilowatts, sending back around 14 back to the grid. So it's quite cloudy outside.
All right. Okay. So you're grid connected and I'm off grid. So we've got different perspectives on this topic. So that's going to come about in a bit too. So I guess as I've kind of said in my promo, this is all about crypto mining with solar energy. And I guess the question that straight away comes to me, and I'll put it to you, is how do you explain to people what crypto mining is and why would you bother doing it?
So by no means take this as financial advice. That's what I'll definitely say first and foremost. And do your due diligence before looking into crypto mining or if it's for you. So I see it as an opportunity for homeowners, business owners with extra solar capacity that might be export limited and need extra load. On my particular house, I can use my personal example. I've got 39.9 kilowatts of PV on 30 kilowatts of solar inverters. So I have, quite a big home size system, and I was looking, for a better return rather than my retailer's feed-in tariff for the energy that I've been using. At the moment, today, it's around. Do you want to talk specific numbers or leave that for later? Or
yeah, maybe later. So I guess keeping it sort of simple, it's people often say, I don't understand this whole cryptocurrency thing. And my cheeky way of responding is, do you understand how modern financial system works? And it's complicated, isn't it?
Exactly. To explain blockchain technology, which was brought about by the cryptocurrency that everyone knows, Bitcoin, came about from the 2008 global financial crisis. And as the story goes, a group of computer programmers got together and said, why do we need a third party or a bank or financial institution to get involved with transfer of money, just in the same way as if we were face to face. I would give you cash for a course that you would run, Glenn. So it's trying to digitize human trust via blockchain technology. So using cryptography. So in terms of the information that we extract from the blockchain, you can't. It's completely visible. Whereas you can't hack it. if that makes sense.
Maybe
It's very hard.
before we go down into the nitty gritty of the blockchain, Carl, because not everyone here is quite as au fait it is with you. And look, I'm put my hand up here. I'm a newbie. This is like 1 week old crypto miner here. So my first thoughts were, so how does it work in terms of the history of financial institutions? So I'll give a little thumbnail view of what I understand things to be. So up until 1944, we really had an ad hoc system of financial interchange of money between different countries and how you valued that. Then the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, towards the end of World War II, got all the financial big players from different countries together, and they came up with what's called the gold standard. Many people still think we have the gold standard. We don't. It's long gone. So the gold standard existed as based on, I think it was $35 an ounce to the US dollar was the gold standard. And the US held most of the world's gold. And so it would issue currency based on that gold that they held in reserve. 1971 came along, and I think there was a bit of loss of trust in the fact that... Pardon? 1974, sorry.
About the transition to the petrodollar?
Yeah, was it 74? 1974. Tricky Dicky, the president of the US, Richard Nixon, got a little bit flustered with the fact that some countries are asking for their gold, not just US dollars, which they were starting to lose trust in. It seemed that the US were spending more than they probably had in the bank, and so that ended the gold standard in 1974. So with Richard Nixon's surprise announcement. So at that point, we went to what we call fiat, F-I-A-T, which is Italian word for fierce currencies, which are based on a country negotiating its exchange rate based on perceived value. So countries just issue currency without any necessary reference to a real thing. There is no gold in the bank anymore. In fact, the UK sold off most of its gold just a decade ago. So really... we're in a new time where we've got a relatively new financial system since 1974. Now, so we're not changing dramatically, introducing yet another way of trading value with currencies, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, are we?
Yeah, and some of our viewers might look into, proponents of modern monetary theory. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, Glenn. Essentially, a country can issue as much currency as it would like, be it they go bankrupt if they're the ones issuing it. I think that's a lot, in terms of financial, there's wide debate around it, but blockchain technology and cryptocurrency is trying to take that third party out and just leave it up to the people as such. It's too hard to ignore from my perspective, though. I've seen it, grow over the past decade. I sort of read about it on obscure online forums, 2009, 2010, when it was, $20, $30. And I wish I had bought some back then. I think last night the price of Bitcoin peaked to around $44,000 Australian. So wish I had got on board back then, but I was a little bit younger, and my financial situation wasn't as healthy. So
have you ever seen the photograph of the guy who bought 2 pizzas with 10,000 Bitcoins back in 2009 when they were worth next to nothing? Yeah. He paid $350 million in today's money for those 2 pizzas.
Yeah, I've got some friends that have spent some Bitcoins back when they were worth not as much. So I know exactly.
Well, I'm going to take a pause. We've got a whole bunch of comments coming in. No really strong questions. So I've got a couple of Happy New Year's. Thanks, Thomas. And thanks, Lily. So Lily's sending us some good vibes there. Thank you. And also some curious comments. So this one's from Kudra. Very curious how you justify the pyramid scheme of Bitcoin as a battery. Maybe Dogecoin is better. Laughing, smiling face. So yeah, there's plenty of doubters, and I'd put my hand up as a doubter too until I actually can spend something. So I think it's still, for me, something that I wouldn't want to bet my house on, but we'll talk a bit more about where there's opportunity that's not going to be high risk in a bit. And what else we got here? Thanks, Mark. Mark thinks I should have a pocket pencil and some glasses and a multimeter around my neck. Yeah, thanks, Mark. I think I'll leave that one. And we've got someone asking about Ethereum. Now, we'll definitely get on to Ethereum because it's more than just a cryptocurrency, so from my understanding. So we'll get on to that. So some of these questions we're actually going to cover in more detail. What's this here? I explain. I'm just reading these comments here. So, and from David here, I explain mining to people unfamiliar as proof of work in verifying transactions being rewarding for the work. So I think that's a really good comment actually from David. You've mentioned the blockchain already, Carl, and people associate blockchain as the same thing as a cryptocurrency, but it's not, is it?
So you have proof of work and also proof of system. So your proof of system is about solving your Byzantine generals problem, which is a computer science term. If we're attacking a city and three generals are in control of communicating between one another and not knowing if the other one is giving false information or, as an enemy. So basically we need 2/3 of the blockchain or community to work together in tackling the problem. If more than 1/3 of the blockchain, and that's, and we assume, we're going into quite technical detail on how blockchain technology circumvents this problem that we have. So no malicious or malign characters can get involved within the blockchain to corrupt the data, or so each transaction or miner, that's the technology that's used, is sort of like a node. And these nodes verify transactions on the network within your Ethereum database or blockchain, or your Bitcoin blockchain. Obviously, we have various other altcoins and blockchains available. You can do a quick Google search, but Bitcoin is that first one that came to public knowledge, and that has solved that Byzantine generals problem in theory.
Can I interrupt again? So my role often in interviewing people is to make things simple. So I'll see if I can kind of simplify something here. Let's talk about blockchain separate from any cryptocurrency. So my understanding of a blockchain is that it's a distributed ledger of record of work done, the way it works is it keeps growing because the ledger keeps growing. So when someone does some work, they add that as a block to the chain of other blocks, and hence the word blockchain.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And the distributed ledger means it can't be falsified because of that Byzantine generals phenomena, that it's distributed across many, many players. And if one person tries to falsify it, the others will say, no, it's not true.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's trying to explain the internet, Glenn.
Yeah, that's another great analogy. And look, I've heard blockchain being used for other than cryptocurrencies, for instance, energy trading. Power Ledger, I know that they're using blockchain technology. Even regular banks using it as a way of verifying transactions. So it's just a more trustworthy transaction method that isn't owned by a central point. It's owned by all of the ledgers.
Exactly, because it's decentralized. Those nodes on the network give, the trust within the network, because it can, obviously the more transactions within that blockchain, if you're a node or miner within that network, you get rewarded to help that blockchain keep on running. That is essentially what you're mining, and you get rewarded part of that transaction fee in Ethereum or Bitcoin when you're mining that. I'll put it in Bunny's ears. That's exactly what you're doing. You're just being part of that blockchain. That's mining the data.
Okay, I've got some questions coming in here, or comments too. So maybe this is a good one because I hear this a lot. This is from my good friend and former neighbour, Bob. Is it a win-lose situation? So my gain is someone else's expense. If so, as a beginner, I am at risk. So
no. So in terms of if you're wanting to join the network,
I think what he's saying is if you mine some currency, some coin, is someone else losing out?
No, you're just contributing to that blockchain. So obviously, the more nodes within that network, the more widely spread the transactions become within that chain. Obviously, the demand for computing power, or your mega hashes, is going to increase. So supply and demand. If there's a lot of demand on that network, transaction costs are going to increase. So miners will be paid more based on the amount of demand within that blockchain. So and that really depends on how widely known cryptocurrencies or blockchain technologies are out there, and how many people are using them. At the moment, it's very popular, and it's only getting bigger. It's very hard to go past. That's why I looked at the energy usage, comparing, if I was just to sell my extra electricity back to the grid, or get mining hardware, and get a better return on investment through that. So in terms of mining, I see it as as a miner, I've got a tangible asset to say, or an insurance policy, where I still have good hardware as well as, and I'll use the Australian government's official definition of cryptocurrency, is treated as property. So it is subject to capital gains tax if you are to transfer it back into Australian dollars, or
Right. Okay. So there's a follow-up comment from Bob. So this one is, Bitcoin has increased in value exponentially, but everything exponential has a breaking point. What's the risk of people ending up with nothing?
I think Bitcoin mining accounts for just under 1% of global energy usage.
Wow.
I don't think it's going away.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. I think it's like 70 terawatts or something like that. It's the figures, astronomical. We come from a very privileged country like Australia. We have very trustworthy governments, financial institutions. But in many countries, you got to think of Bitcoin as a global currency of the people, as such. So there's a lot of countries and banana republics where there are central banks, and there's a lot of malign characters that get involved within their banking organizations, and they can start printing more dollars or fiat currency, so the people of those countries, and I've heard of a lot of countries, and that's why there's been such a big uptake in Bitcoin, was because it was the first solution where people can send or make transactions between family members in different places at the click of a finger, with very little transaction costs. So I'm not sure if you've sent much money overseas, or it's quite a difficult
Yeah, it solves the problem of having to use a middleman to transfer money, and that they clip the ticket and take their fee. I mean, I've used Western Union once, and it was a significant part of the transaction was the Western Union fee, so it wasn't very happy, and it was awfully painful too. So to do, so I've got on screen now, just for those who. To respond a little bit to Bob's question about price. Now, this is the price of Bitcoin, one of the many, I don't know how many currencies there are out there, but let's have a look at the full history here. So if I click on Max, I think I can get the whole lot up here, going right back to, where are we? To 2014. So in terms of volume, it was pretty insignificant, even though the price was climbing. Then we had that big spike in 2018 where it hit 20,000 US a coin. Then it collapsed. And I think that's when everyone went, it's just a fad, it's going to go away. It doesn't. And I must admit, I felt the same when I heard that. I thought, well, it's all over. But look where we are now.
There's big, companies and Microsoft and PayPal accept cryptocurrency. So it's a big thing, and it's very hard to go past. The sheer scale of it and the growth, as you can see by that chart, just on the coin's value, as Bitcoin is limited to 21 million Bitcoins. So that's the physical size of the blockchain. So you can break it down into like the Satoshi denominator. I think it's 0.0. I can't remember how many zeros it is, but that's that. You understand what I mean, Glenn. And I'm sure if people would like to know more about it and read the public white paper on Bitcoin as per se, but
actually, I've got a question that relates to this. So this is from Thomas, and Thomas says, will there ever be a cap on the amount of cryptocurrency able to be generated in the world? Now, you just listed the limit for Bitcoin was what, 21 million, was it?
Million.
Bitcoins?
21 million Bitcoins can only be created,
So what happens if you ever do get to that limit? What happens to the value of a Bitcoin?
Well, it depends on how many people are using it, Glenn. So supply and demand, and as time goes on, and the more nodes within, miners trying to create this Bitcoin and get rewarded for that creating those coins, the price will go up because it's inherently that cryptography mathematical problem is getting harder. And the amount of transactions, it's continually changing. And like we touched on before, all of those people say, I think we're getting a little bit, is it ethical? And people say, it's not ethical because people can be anonymous within the network. Whereas I would say, it's some of the most traceable data records to date. Everything, you can see everything that's happened on the blockchain. So you can see if I was to send, if you had a public account linked to your bank account, if you knew that number, you can see, you knew my wallet address, I could send you however many Bitcoins. I'm sure you'd like that, Glenn. And that would be public information as such. That's open source. So you can see everything that's gone on with the network. That's, that's the difference.
Questions are coming in thick and fast, but I've got a comment to Thomas too. So I guess my analogy would be that mining real gold out of the ground is a limited resource, and its value doesn't disappear once you've mined all the gold because it has an inherent value. And people trust it as a trade of value. So we've kind of held on to that for centuries. In a way, if you build the same trust into a cryptocurrency, it fulfills that same function, even when it's complete, even when there is no more to mine. So I guess that's the analogy is gold. Gee, the questions are flying in. Carl, let me just. This is the most questions I've ever had.
20,
I should talk more about
21, Glenn.
cryptocurrency and less about solar, but there is actually quite a few questions relating to solar now. So solar cryptocurrency, which is what we're all about. And I can see, g'day Mark, there's a few solar people there I know. So let's hang on, pick a good question here. So yeah, Mark's asking about other currencies. So why just Bitcoin? What other currencies are surging? What do you got to say?
Yeah, I know Mark. Mark's a good solar installer from South Australia here, and he's a very good creator of LGCs. What other? I think I really like Ethereum. I personally mine Ethereum. I don't have any ASIC miners, which are application-specific miners, because you don't actually for everyday use. You mine Bitcoin with your S9s, I think you have, Glenn.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's an application-specific device where it's just mining Bitcoins. Whereas I've got a pretty formidable PC with talking in computer hardware terms. I've got two 2080 Ti graphics cards in there, which are quite powerful for regular usage. And I thought, well, while I'm not using the PC, I can mine Ethereum. So I can contribute to the Ethereum blockchain, and obviously the use cases of Ethereum are quite high in a currency. And yeah, if I said I know it all, I'd be lying.
That's okay. Look, I think this is a topic that's got a whole diversity of structure to different levels of expertise. I guess we're just kind of doing a bit of an intro here. A question that comes up, and it was one of the things I wanted to get to about ethicalness and is it good for the environment? And this is actually a question from Karma. So Kudra Karma says, basically my position is crypto mining for currency is a huge waste of energy, especially fossil fuels. But hey, if you only use excess solar for it, go nuts. But better for useful stuff like research. Now, I'm not sure what he meant by the last bit, but in terms of what you do and what I have been doing is exactly that, using excess solar. I mean, the way I got into this is I said I needed some load dumps, and they said, why don't you use some ASIC miners? And I go, what are they? And they said, I'll drop a couple off. So Sam Frost, dropped a couple of ASIC miners off, and they basically load dumps for my testing equipment, which earn a little bit of Bitcoin on the side.
Yeah, so, there can be a lot more less energy intensive way. And when Ethereum, now we're starting to get into some real blockchain gobbledygook. When Ethereum 2.0 is finally released, over 1.6, I think it's around 1.6 billion US dollars equivalent of Ethereum has been staked for the new Ethereum 2.0 network. I guess and that's meant to be less and turn into a proof of work instead of proof of system. So proof of system is you're establishing the blockchain and proving that Byzantine general solution that it's trustworthy, that the information that people are receiving from that blockchain is trustworthy from the different nodes. And yeah, so I hope that sort of.
Yeah, there's a comment here from David. I think you might know David. He says the majority of large Bitcoin mining farms are hydro because they actually need really low cost of electricity to be viable. And that's also the comment that that Jay Bates makes, is that it's no longer realistically to mine on a PC. Well, I would disagree with that. Having just used my graphics card, which I mainly use for video editing, turns out it makes coin at about the same rate as my ASIC miners.
No, so what you're doing, so that's through NiceHash, Glenn?
Yes.
So you're actually, NiceHash has a lot of, if you go to the plugin section, you'll actually be, at the moment, Ethereum is the most profitable. So if we Yes, so you're getting paid in Bitcoin, but you're actually mining Ethereum.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, so that's what I really like about. So, and obviously it's changing from day to day which software and algorithm is most profitable, and it depends on which algorithm has the most demand and of transactions to where the miners are going to be paid more. So I think.
Hang on, one more question before you bring up some. I know you've got a screen to share, so we'll do that in a second when you're ready. But Mark, who actually just popped out for a second, says, how much impact does DNSP, i.e. electrical utility network charges, have on the viability of mining? So I guess this is the I'm not using solar, I'm buying it from the grid sort of question.
Is he in negotiations? I really like it for grid stability, for having, and I'm pretty sure Mark, this is a bit of a plug for Mark with his Blue Logic software, and the ability to switch generation on and off, with the NEM, or the National Electricity Market. I'm not sure at a DNS, obviously I'm only doing it from a small scale residential, no demand tariffs, anything like that. So I just have my fixed daily supply charge. If I was going to do it on a commercial property, like our workshop, we would obviously be hit with demand charges if we didn't have big batteries or anything like that. So I guess negotiating with a good retailer, I don't know if I'm giving Mark another plug here.
You're welcome to. He deserves a plug. He's doing great things, Mark.
Yeah, I don't. Is he bringing something to market?
I don't know, but I'm sure he'd be thinking about it. So hang on, let's just, before we go down that little rabbit hole, there's a question with an answer. So I've got Josh asking a question, then I've got Julian, thank you Julian, answering it. So Josh's question is, what sort of internet data connection is required? Now this is one of my thoughts too, because bandwidth is valuable, and I'm thinking, am I using massive amounts of bandwidth? And Julian helpfully replies, Josh, internet isn't too intense, can get away with NBN 12 plans.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't know the answer for that. I've got an unlimited package. We share internet between 3 different properties, so we have an unlimited speed, well, not unlimited speed, but unlimited downloads and uploads. So thanks to that. So I haven't really monitored the usage. I'm not really
So Michael's got the $64 million question, which is, how many kilowatt hours of energy produce one Bitcoin?
So there is a conversion rate. Did you want me to switch over to that?
Yeah, why don't you share a screen?
It's constantly changing as well, Glenn. So you've got me?
Yep, you're on screen.
So this is obviously going to be in US dollars because it's an American based website. I'm not sure I can actually change it to Australian dollars. So we've got your graphics card plugged in there, which is the 3080, the NVIDIA RTX 3080. So I think we worked out was 90 mega hashes per second. We can calculate that. So at the moment, it's most profitable to be using the ET hash algorithm. And as you can see, revenue BTC. Do you know how much your computer uses per 24-hour block, then?
It's using about 230 watts, according to Afterburner. So the card is. I guess the computer's got.
I think that's just the card. Yeah. So and it really depends on what other cooling methods you have, fans.
Just water cooled CPU. So I'd put it around about 300 watts, 350 watts maybe.
Yeah, so that's obviously how much Bitcoin. So if we do that calculation of mega hashes per second, to mega hashes per second divided by how much energy usage your computer is using. We can see and that's plugged in. Okay, so the cost of $0, I'll put $0 per kilowatt hour in there, and because you're off grid, so you wouldn't be using the energy anyway, would you, Glenn?
That's right. It's surplus energy. So you could say it's use it or lose it off grid. Julian's just helpfully given his experience. So he's mining using 28 kilowatt hours a day and generating around about $27 a day. So that's about $1 a kilowatt hour. That's pretty good rate of return.
Yeah. So I've got and it's constantly changing every day, Glenn. I think that's what we've got to realize. So at the moment I've got two 5700 XTs, which are an AMD graphics cards. I've got two 2080 Ti's, and I'm actually using my dad's new PC that we've just built for him, which has got a 2070 Super, and he hasn't set it up in his office yet. So my mega hashes per second are around 250. We can calculate that. So at the moment today is around $13.40 US, or 0.00412 Bitcoin. If we were to translate that, back into Bitcoin, that Ethereum. So if you were using NiceHash, we'll be being paid in Bitcoin.
Right. So, now, look, we're going pretty deep straight away again, so I'm just going to pull you up there. You've just mentioned all these things like NiceHash, Ethereum, Bitcoin, etc. So there's more than one cryptocurrency, as is obvious, but there's also different miners that you can use and different exchanges.
Yeah. So, I use a few, and depending on what I want to do, what's most profitable. Obviously, I usually go what to mine. I've already got it preloaded. What graphics cards I have, what my hash rates are, and you can see all the other algorithms. Zhash, prompt MTP. So Bitcoin is a where is it?
I've actually just stopped sharing your screen. I was getting a bit dizzy with the scrolling, and on a small screen, you get a bit excited. And also, I want to come back to our audience, because I've never had such a big audience. It's great to see you there, everyone, and loads and loads of questions. Also, the audience is helping each other out with answers to questions like internet usage, etc., energy consumption. Jason points out that it seems he's tried to post a picture of his usage, but around about 350 megabytes per month, assuming 24/7 mining. So that's just one Netflix episode, or even less. So it's not a big user of data, as you can see. So data's not a problem. The energy consumption, if you're using surplus solar, and now this is kind of where we started this whole conversation a while back, was is it worth mining, or is it better to export the energy to the grid?
I've got a lot of on a good sunny day, I'm exporting over 200 kilowatt hours per day after my batteries are charged. So I have a 19.6 kilowatt hour battery bank that I use to power my miners, run my air conditioners, my dishwasher if it's programmed to go on before the sun comes up, or just your daily duties of electricity consumption. At the moment I'm receiving around 12 cents feed-in tariff. I'd love to be able to get more for that 12 cents, but in terms of I'm just reading that comment that just popped up on the screen. In terms of my rate of return per kilowatt hour used on my rigs, if I was just being paid the 12 cents, works out around 70 to 80 cents. Obviously depends on the market.
So way better than a feed-in tariff by a long shot.
Way better.
Yeah, and
You know,
that's the point Julian was
and
making too, and certainly on the Facebook forum. It's really a much better option is to use your energy, not export it to the grid, and the grid operators generally don't want it anyway, so they're not giving you incentives to do it. So it's a great way of using up that surplus that you have from a renewable source. That's the key thing here. We're not actually wasting coal-fired power if we're using solar, and certainly if you've got surplus solar production on or off grid, you can soak it up with mining some coin. I just put up, David helpfully pointed out, because there was a question earlier on from Michael Rakin about how many kilowatt hours to produce a Bitcoin, and I just threw that up there. There it is again. 1 Bitcoin, 10 every 10 minutes. Wow. At 72 terawatts. That's insane. Okay, that's a very big number. And like you say, it's something like 1% of global energy use is mining cryptocurrency, which mostly I imagine is Ethereum and Bitcoin, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so depending on what source you're really, obviously who knows exactly how much electricity is being generated at any one time. It's not a publicly known, it's only going off estimations of what we have out there, because obviously we don't know the true amount of electricity being generated.
Yeah. So. All right, well, let's come back to some of the questions I had for you. One I often get, or it's a comment, people say, oh, it's just make-believe money. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'd like to use the government's declaration that cryptocurrencies are treated as property and, are subject to capital gains. So be careful.
Okay. So even if you don't convert them, so if you've got,
So if you hold, it's like a house.
Yep, it's an asset.
It's an asset.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you were to sell that or transfer, through to Australian dollars, within, obviously depending on the situation, and I'm not an accountant, I don't really offer financial advice. I'm just a simple electrician.
Yeah, look, we have to make this point many times over that we're not providing financial advice, and you should always do your due diligence when entering into anything in the financial matter. Don't take us as we're not registered financial advisors or anything like that. This is just a fun chat about solar and crypto mining. So Julian points out here that he's got 26 kilowatt hours of storage and 14.5 kilowatts of PV, and he gets 15 cents per kilowatt hour for, I presume that's for export, but he's limited to 5 kilowatts of export. That's the other reason for mining, is you may well have to curtail your production because you're limited by the regulations of your DNSP. And in this case, 5 kilowatts would be a third, or probably approximately a third of his generation as being, 2/3 of his generation as being curtailed in the middle of the day. So you might as well use that, store it, and or directly use it.
Exactly, Glenn. I'm only limited to 10 kilowatts per phase export. When the tech standard 129 was introduced into South Australia, my old man and I sort of got together and said, well, we've got to really do something on our existing properties. And we just went gung-ho and put on, I think Dad's got like 39.4 kilowatts of PV on 30 kilowatts of inverter. He's got 26 kilowatt hours of storage. I've got 39.9 with 19.6 kilowatt hours of storage. So there was a big race. We had 3 months to do 3-phase upgrades, and install, I think it was around 250 panels on the 2 properties. So, and our properties were quite tricky, as they're terracotta roofs and, multiple aspects. I wouldn't do the same systems. I wouldn't recommend the same systems on clients' houses, just because that was very hard to squeeze it in. As fitting, 120 to 130 panels on a residential property, as any good solar cutter would know, is very hard.
So, look, I'm going to go back to our audience. There's so much questions and comments coming in. It's just fantastic. So, Ray's a repeat offender here at the Toolbox Tech Talk. Good to see you back, Ray. He says, why not redirect or buy an EV and redirect your solar into charging an EV? Well, Ray, we've just done that. So, here at the lab, we've just purchased an EV just a week ago, and we do use it for charging. But look, we don't drive a lot. So, basically, we still have surplus. So, yes, I totally agree. Use renewable energy for all the things electrical you can think of, including an EV, which is a great way of reducing emissions and your footprint. But then you're still going to have some surplus probably. Yep. So that's the other issue.
Yeah,
just one more before we go. You have? Yep. Really? What have you got?
Yeah, electric forklift.
Can you take it shopping?
No, it's actually really quick. No, my wife and I are looking at buying an EV for our property. But like I say, on a good summer's day, I'm exporting 200 kilowatt hours. The biggest Tesla, P100D is a 100 kilowatt hour battery. So even still, I'd still have, on a perfect day, 100 kilowatt hours of surplus energy.
Yeah, I'd have to drive about 1,000 kilometres a day based on the usage of our EV to soak up our surplus solar. So I'm not going to be just driving around the block for the hell of it. So Troy, this is the other $64 million question when it comes to mining, and particularly ASIC mining, application-specific integrated circuits is what the acronym stands for. And I've got one right next to me. Why don't I just bring up a picture, because I did kind of plan to show it to you. I should have gave you a quick peek. So this is one of the miners that plugged for Sam Frost. He gave me a couple of these as load dumps, but also they actually work. S9s are getting a little long in the tooth now, but they still work. So these are 1.375 kilowatts of power consumption each. The little 12-volt power supply is pretty amazing, 133 amps at 12 volts it puts out. And that's how much this thing consumes. It's a lot of energy, and it really screams. So ant miners, they're certainly the older ones, I believe, are very, very noisy. I can't have this in the house, no way. I've got it in a back shed, and even then I can still hear it a little bit. So noise is an issue, but also the heat that they give off can be a benefit or a problem. So you can actually use them for heating. I mean, one of the suggestions that Sam was pointing out is immersing it in oil and using the oil as a heat source that you could just circulate around. So yeah, they do make a lot of noise. But if you're using GPU mining as you are they very noisy, Carl?
So my particular GPU miner setup, I think if we get my setup, I don't have it on this PC. I've got the same fans as on your particular ASIC miners. So they're the Delta fans, which can be like living next to a 747. Although I've taken measures to thread an air duct, you might have seen that, Glenn, to actually vent and some of the noise and also the heat outside. When I first got my miners, I'd set them up in my lounge room just behind me, and my wife came in and she's like, "You got to be joking." So she at night, it was 11:30 at night, and I still had them running, and all I'm seeing is dollar signs in my eyes, or crypto signs. And she's like, "How much is it going to make, all night?" And I had, I think it was 1 or 2 GPUs in it because it holds 8. And I said, around $5 for the night. And she goes, "I'll pay you $10 tomorrow. How about that?"
Just to turn it off.
Turn it off.
Yeah. All right. So that's the noise issue, certainly if you're using ASIC miners. Yep.
Yeah. Although you can, like a traditional computer with traditional computer case fans can be quite quiet. I've got a friend that runs some 6 and 8 GPU rigs in open frames. He's got reverse cycle ducted air conditioning, air conditions the room, and his fans are really quiet.
Okay,
But,
so
that's
God, I can't believe how many questions are coming in. So you can't see them until I bring them on screen, so that's why I'm just interrupting you all the time. So Thomas asks about Power Ledger. So he just points out, wasn't Power Ledger, which is the first digital blockchain to be recognised as a currency in Australia? I'm not sure the answer to that one, but then Thomas follows up with, how do you see Power Ledger performing with trading energy person to person? Now, I think that's really what they're all about, is energy trading using the blockchain. It's not, to my knowledge, it's not a cryptocurrency. It's a blockchain technology using it as a way of trading value or work done, i.e. Energy.
Exactly, Glenn. And as we touched on before, blockchain technology is trying to explain the internet. There's so many use cases, and it's not only for transfer of currency, but transfer of information. Let's say we're all updating or feeding electricity back into the network. If we have some sort of interface that says we're sending back electricity, that will give us credit, and then our neighbours using it, and they've also got access to Power Ledger. I don't think it's live at the moment. Power Ledger, is it still?
I don't know. Actually, they visited me here at the lab some years ago, so I sort of had an initial connection, but I must follow up with them. Also got a question here, and I guess this relates to another one I had, which was about the economics of mining and getting into it. This person's asking any recommendations where to buy a mining rig. I mean, you can mine with what you've got, even just a laptop computer, but it won't be very profitable, and it's probably going to wear it out a bit. But if when you say a rig, there's levels of rigs, aren't there, Carl?
Yeah, how long's a piece of string, Len? If you really go into the mining rabbit hole, which myself and a lot of colleagues and friends have done, it's sort of like my hobby now, and and I'm sure you're the same, Glenn. All you want to do is get more mega hashes per second, and every bit of tweak on Afterburner, and and keeping those energy, the energy that those graphics cards and miners, you're trying to keep that as minimal as possible, and to get the most efficiency into mega hashes per second. So, touching on, is it expensive to get into? Yeah, sure, you can make it expensive, but and if you want a higher return, and as with everything, there's a return on an investment. Same as I don't want to really give financial advice on mining rigs, but return on investment for myself and my rigs, I estimate. Obviously, it's going to depend on that fluctuating market. So around 6 to 12 months, conservatively.
Yeah.
So, and I'm still left with that hardware as well, Glenn. So, that's what a lot of people don't realise.
An awesome amount of computer equipment. That's right. If you want to set up a gaming shop or something. Hey, David's just asked here, and I think I can answer some of this. Any suggestions on how to automate switching on and off mining rigs? Now, David, that was actually kind of my intro, was how to have a load dump. I mean, I was actually looking at purchasing a load dump, a 30 kilowatt load dump, which was going to cost me an awful lot of money, basically a lot of software controlled heating elements. And then Sam said, oh, look, why don't you use an ASIC mining rig? So I said, but can you just turn them on and off? And he said, yeah, sure. I mean, they take about 4 or 5 minutes to come online, but they don't care if you turn them on and off. They don't crash and then burn. They're not like a computer, which you've got to, nicely start and stop. You can just literally turn them on and off. So you can automate that with anything that control an electrical socket outlet, basically. So SMAPI, Arduino, if this then that. I'm using a device Simon Hackett actually from Redflow gave me, called the Web Switch, which is can be controlled by TCP/IP or even Modbus over TCP/IP. So you can put some smarts into it. So whenever, in my case, there is surplus solar on my off-grid mini grid, it will then switch on the web switch and soak some of that up with ASIC miners. So yes, automation, and I know that's a goal for you, Carl, too, is so you don't have to think about when to turn it on and off. Just let the smarts do it for you.
Yeah, I'm in a pretty unique situation where I don't really have to worry about usage. So I've just got my miners running 24/7. Um, there's plenty of solar inverters that are capable of see Julian's I think Julian uses his Solar Edge smart home, but so our GPU rigs, I've got like a mining specific computer or PC that you can just switch the power off and switch it back on. It'll automatically I've got a startup command where it will automatically start my miner. So even if the power were to go off on that particular circuit, which is very unlikely because it's on my battery UPS circuit, I'm not going to actually, unless the batteries were to go flat, and then the power was to also go at the same time, that PC's not going to stop mining. But yeah, switching there's plenty of apps and smart power points and solar inverters and many third-party switching applications there.
All right, here's a question from Josh. Hi, Josh. Good to see you on the channel. So Josh is asking, so the mining uses the graphics card, not the computer's processor?
Yeah, so you can do, it's profitable. Mining with your GPU is profitable. You can mine with the computer's CPU, depending on, what CPU it is. Like I've got quite a formidable CPU in my PC, which is the i9 10980XE, and it mines a different coin to Ethereum. It was mining XRP, which is Monero, and that was mining about $2.50 equivalent of Bitcoin per day, but it was using 200 electricity, and it's quite an expensive CPU to mine with. So your best value for money and best rate of return is for your GPUs or your application-specific, ASIC mining, CPU mine. Bitcoin, from my understanding, started off as a CPU mining.
Right.
And then it sort of developed from there. Yeah.
Thanks, Carl. Look, we've got a question from your old man. Well, actually, some advice. There's I know this Voscoin. I've watched him on YouTube, so his channel is really interesting. I particularly like the time he went to the biggest mining site I've ever seen, with a 2.5 megawatt power supply to the site.
No, that's 100 megawatt.
Is it 100? Okay. Maybe
it's an old textile. Yeah, that's Core Scientific in Nevada. So I reckon that's the largest mining facility in the US. But those guys have got I think 6 or 7 sites across the US. They're humongous. Yeah. So I'm sure there's going to be some searching, and
I like Stephen's got a picture of one of his Tiranas there, I think.
That's a little bit further along now. We're into our old cars, so we've also got a mechanic workshop.
So there's a lot of AI like Metro Control or similar that can look at the NEM and therefore make decisions about when to switch on, certainly when there's price signaling. So the ability to control something makes all of this much more valuable. And I think this was pointed out way earlier today by Jason. Was it Jason?
Mark.
By Mark.
Bates.
Yeah, so Mark Bates, that actually consuming energy is just as valuable as generating renewable energy. So when it comes to managing the national electricity grid, and so actually having a controlled load can be valuable. Now that's something still to come with rule change on the NEM, but that will certainly be very very good signaling about using energy. You can be paid to use energy as opposed to you always pay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how many people or how many of your viewers, I've got an app on my phone, which is Red Dolphin or Pocket NEM. So I follow the national electricity market off of an app on my phone. So at the moment, the wholesale electricity price, that's the rate that your retailer can purchase energy if they don't have their own generation, is -$1. So that means if you're a generator at the moment, you actually have to pay to be connected to the network. Yeah.
So is that NemWatch you're referring to?
Yeah, I've got an app, Red Dolphin.
Oh, okay.
I think it's NemWatch, Pocket Nem.
Oh, yeah, Pocket Nem. That's the one. That's the free one. Yeah.
Just the free one. I'm not an energy trader, but yeah, Dad has a lot of friends in energy trading, so that's sort of his background. A fair bit of energy trading. So
there's also OpenNem, which is another good one. In fact, I'll just share that so you can see it. Here we go. I'll just bring it up on screen. So yeah, OpenNem, you can track at different time intervals, like, the 1 day, 3 day, 7 day, and this is the whole of the national electricity market, or you can look at just a segment of it. So for instance, let's look at the hero for renewables, South Australia. There's an awful lot of yellow and green in South Australia at the moment, so that's pretty awesome. And you can burrow right down and see where it goes in the opposite direction. So that's when you actually would be paid because it's going the wrong way. So there's surplus generation.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that, people might say, oh, look at that, electricity's, really cheap and it's $0. It's not good for the network to be cheap and free. At the moment, if you've got a solar farm, when the price is $0, you're getting no return on your investment. So, as many people say, oh, it's great. Well, it's not going to do much for, we need more demand on the network, essentially, and we need to, give, there's plenty of proponents and, and plans for energy consumption, and the undersea cable to Singapore, I think it is, selling them electricity. But, it would be nice to be able to use more electricity here. And I think blockchain technology can assist in, more demand within our network. There's also, I might give, I've also got a friend and colleague that I was mentioning before we're off air that's got his own cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Can I give a little bit of a brief
Go for it.
Explanation of background on? So yeah, I've known my friend. He's a ER physician by day, so he works in a hospital, and he's heavily into blockchain technology and has a platform and coin called Wager. So you can actually. Are we on?
Do you want me to share your screen?
Yeah. So I'll do Wager full screen, and I might send an affiliate link. So you can actually go to Wager. That's WAGERR.com. It's an online, portal. It's been going since I remember when he got it up and running, and he's heavily into blockchain technology. He's traveled all around the world and goes to Germany and the US and has met with many blockchain proponents. But this particular platform, it's an online betting software using blockchain technology. So if we go at the moment, this is what you can do. And he said if you create an account, which is on your browser, you don't need an email address or anything like that. It's attached to your cookies on your browser, and you give your wallet address in the deposit section. David's going to send some wager through to those accounts, and you can have a little bit of a play with some blockchain technology. Touching on another question, David's platform is all open source. So, I'm not probably the best person to explain it, but it's not energy intensive blockchain. So,
cool.
Yeah, everything's yeah. So if you want to learn a little bit more about it, but yeah, we live not too far from each other, so and I've known him for a number of years, and it's been interesting to see his project, and his implemented it with sports betting. So yeah, so there's a bit of a I'm going to minimize that now, Glenn. You bring it back to the.
Yep, I've got us back on.
Yeah.
So I've got a question for you, Carl. Have you ever bought anything with cryptocurrency?
No, not personally. Not personally. I am diversifying my investment portfolio, so I'm accumulating.
Look, I could add a little personal thing. I was sort of super excited. Like, I'm a week old in this cryptocurrency business, so I thought I'll see if I can spend some. I've made 10 Australian dollars equivalent at the time, and so I thought I'd just go and see. And no one wanted to take Bitcoin, and I'd searched around, and then I gave up. So then I was just buying some green coffee beans the other day, and I just noticed on the checkout it said Bitcoin. I couldn't believe it. So I bought some coffee beans with Bitcoin. There you go.
There you go, Glenn. There you go. You're ahead of the curve. You're ahead of the curve. You hope that doesn't go up in value, though, and be worth $20.
Yeah, or my coffee bean suddenly should have been worth $350 million if I just kept the coin. That's right. But anyway.
Yeah, like I said before, I've had some friends that have spent some coins many years ago now, and they sort of regret it. But yeah, there's many uses that you can do with with blockchain technology. I think it's naive to just say cryptocurrency, where it's the blockchain technology that we're looking at here. It's like what were we doing before the internet? I think in terms of use cases, they're really unlimited when you really get down to the nitty gritty. And I'm sure there's many institutions and financial institutions, medical. The possibilities are just endless. And we're a global society, and dealing with information transfer safely, where it's not centralized. Having as many nodes in the network, and using that Byzantine general solution and putting it into use. It's still early days, but yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting technology.
Well, we're coming towards the end of the session, and I just wanted to wrap up a few more comments and questions that came in. So Andrew Thaler, g'day Andrew. Andrew's been in this mining business for a long time, back in 2014. Hopefully he didn't spend all his coins on buying pizzas back then. So he was saying he had a liquid cooled mining system. So cooling actually is a big part of large scale mining, and if you do have a use for that heat, you could think of it as dual generation or even tri-generation. So that's great. Stephen asks, this is your old man again, it's good to have the family involved. The question needs to be asked, will we ever see large electricity generators using crypto mining to hedge prices? What do you reckon?
I hope so.
So this would be in lieu of, say you've got spinning generation and there's no load and the price is negative. Do you just mine with it at the generation site?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's energy trading. If the network needs it for air conditioners and dishwashers, and we're starting to see the flight of Australian manufacturing, sadly, and who are the big energy users in South Australia? One of them used to be Holden's. So now we really need some consumption and load back, and I think is the solution. I really hope there's some people that can put it into practice, and we can get some of our hardware, and it's scalable. You can start off in mining at such a small level and get your head around it just with your personal computer. Like, let's say you've got a formidable gaming PC, for instance. You're into online gaming. You can start and download a miner, open up a wallet, and there you go. You're in the mining sector. And the important thing that I guess is security. So having two-factor authentication on your personal wallet, by means of Google Authenticator, or having a YubiKey, like having a physical device where you physically need that YubiKey to log into your online wallet. And also, people say, oh, what about like, am I opening the system up to hackers on my PC? On mining specific rigs, I don't suggest opening dodgy emails and downloading, weird attachments that from, whoever. Like, I wouldn't recommend that. I'd maybe just keep a mining rig separately, and using that only for mining.
Yeah, actually, security was something that straight away threw up all my antivirus software. I kept on thinking every time I went to download mining software, it said it was a bad guy, basically.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of tutorials, and it's just the antivirus nature of, But there's so many, like they say, they can get control of my miner. Well, you're going to see that straight away. You can go straight to if we pop to my dashboard, Glenn.
Yep, gotcha.
We're on my dashboard. So, you can see I've got 3 miners active on my dashboard at the moment, all mining into this particular Ethereum wallet address that I have. As you can, it hasn't been running for very long, so that's why it's not the biggest mining account, and there's a lot bigger farms. But I've got 3 PCs on here. I've got the Rabbit, which is my main PC, mining at currently 95.2 mega hashes per second. My miner that's located at the back, it's only got 2 GPUs in it at the moment. That's currently mining at 86.6 mega hashes per second. And my old man's PC it's just a fresh build, and I've got it sitting over there in the bar.
Making lots of noise.
And, no, they're quiet. So my particular computers are water cooled. So the water cooling is obviously very, very quiet. That's why people, and also a lot more efficient. So in terms of GPU temperatures, mining is quite energy intensive, and also generating a lot of heat. So one thing people really, if they're going to get into it seriously, you're putting your GPU under 100% load. It's mostly using the memory of your GPU or graphics card, and tweaking, like I went through with you on Messenger on running MSI Afterburner, and undervolting, the importance of undervolting your GPUs. The amount of information available online is humongous. Like, you can work out what particular graphics card that you have, what are the best settings, what are the best core clocks, memory clocks, undervolt, all of that. Like I say, you can step down the rabbit hole and really get really into it. It's like solar.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got a few more and we'll wind up. So actually, one of my questions for you was, do you need to be a bit of a computer geek to get into crypto mining?
To get into it, not necessarily. Like I touched on before, if you've got a decent PC, there's a lot of tutorials, and maybe that's something, the Smart Energy Lab or something can do is, there's plenty of tutorials on YouTube on how to download miners, Phoenix Miner or NiceHash, or have a look on Solar Crypto Miners on Facebook. That's a group that Julian and I put on after it was mentioned on the Solar Cutters.
I think we both started at the same group at the same time, like slightly different names, but It was kind of funny.
We're actually in competition. We're actually in competition, Glenn.
Are we? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a limit to Facebook groups. But look, also Mark's giving me a bit of a plug. He goes, mining is great for pricing. The network ultimately going to be winners unless me, Glenn Morris, can design an off-grid mine. So yeah, I think off-grid mining could well be a thing. If you've got surplus solar, you don't actually have to export energy to the grid, and you've got plenty of land. So that's something for further discussion, I think.
Exactly. If you're paying a wholesale, if you've most residential homeowners wouldn't be signed up with a retailer that's dealt based on fluctuating wholesale prices. They're not paying spot price for their energy. It's good for if you are, and if the price is negative, but it's also, let's say there's a lot of demand on the network and wholesale prices are quite high. It works on the other foot as well. You can be paying quite expensive prices, and Mark's very familiar with that side of things. So, but yeah, I think we need more load on the network. So, I think jump on board the crypto mining experience if you want a new hobby.
Well, I think I realise this topic is way bigger than I can cover in one Toolbox Tech Talk, and just by the amount of interest, this is like triple the number of people I normally have attend one of my live streams. So that's great to see. We're going to probably be following this up. So, Carl, I might be calling upon your expertise again in the future. But there's plenty of online sources. What's that?
Sorry, go. Do you want me to get on David? He's he would be one of the most knowledgeable in crypto.
I think so. I think we need to go to someone who's got the depth of knowledge for some of these questions that come in. But just another plug for Solar Crypto Miners. So thanks to yourself and Julian for starting that, because it's all about self-help. And my experience, because part of the question was, do you have to be a bit of an internet or a computer geek to get into this? It's really easy. I mean, certainly with hardware mining, using something like a hardware device, I literally turned it on, plugged it in, went to a browser, put in 2 strings of numbers, and I was mining. I had to set up a wallet and an exchange, but that was just a normal process of registering with a website. So really a very basic level of skill to get going with hardware mining, dedicated devices like ASICs. But when it comes to using software, really, like you said, you can just download it. But I guess beware, you are downloading something that's going to be operating your computer, so you probably want to quarantine it to a separate computer, not your main one that you use for work, because it does make it run a bit slow because it's using 100% of your everything often. So yeah, that's the other issue. So look, we've sort of come to the end of today, and this is also the longest Toolbox Tech Talk I've ever done. So really a big thanks to you, Carl, for taking time on a Sunday to talk to me and all the audience here. And thanks to the wonderful audience for a massive amount of questions and helping each other in the comments. And Carl, you'll probably see them if you jump onto Facebook or YouTube afterwards. There's been a whole lot of discussion going on parallel to us. But that's a wrap.
Not a problem, Glenn. I think I've got some colleagues who are in talks of creating some user-friendly rigs, some pre-constructed rigs for people that are looking to get into it. So it's still in the works, and we're trying to put together a cost-effective solution for people that are looking to get into it. But it's still early days. We're still in alpha testing.
All right. Well, thanks. And I'll just roll the credits, and we'll see you hopefully next Sunday, same time, same place for Toolbox Tech Talk.
Thanks, Glenn.
See you, Carl.
Cheers, mate. I'll log off. Cheers, mate.